Hey Lola, can you let me know if you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Good
Mm.
afternoon.
So let me allow you to share screen.
I'm making one or two changes. So just give me the permission to, yeah.
Ah, people are already waiting.
Okay.
Are you doing it on your video, on your phone?
Okay.
Are you doing it on your phone? Because it's very
Am I doing it on
small.
my phone? My phone can.
Your screen is small.
Oh, is it? Okay. No, my laptop. Are you serious? Let
So
me
like now, can you see
adjust.
my face as a whole screen?
I don't know why it's
Yeah?
now. Yeah, I get what you're saying. So I get it. I'm trying to see if
Okay, thank you very much for your patience, and we will just start now. Um, Shade, could you please share your video so everybody could see your face, and then you can then go ahead after I've read your bio to start sharing the slides.
yes, Lola. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to read. Modupe, I don't know if you can spotlight Mrs. Fagbola, so I'll just read her bio quickly. So Shade Fagbola is a seasoned global supply chain leader and operational excellence specialist, also a very good friend of mine, I would like to add, with over 20 years of experience driving transformative growth across diverse industries in Nigeria and beyond. She holds an MBA from the Leeds Beckett University in the UK, and she has a proven track record of leading multi-million-dollar projects, optimizing supply chain operation, and fostering strategic partnerships with financial institutions, regulatory bodies, some of which have included the Nigerian Customs Services, NAFDAC, NERC. She served as the group head of supply chain for Transcorp Group PLC. She has been part of the team or has overseen over $100 million annual capex projects for 2 power plants. Um, I mean, it shows so much of how much experience she's had over the years, particularly in Nigeria. I'm just realizing that my video is very dark, so I might have to move around. While in Transcorp, she also had a record 35-day major inspection of lead time in the Transcorp power plant, and may save the company over $3 million in savings. She this is what happens when you try to paraphrase. I should have just read and she gave it to me. But anyways, Sade is a passionate advocate for supply chain innovation, and that's part of the reasons why we really wanted her to come and lead this conversation on mastering supply chain strategies for business growth while advocating for its role in the Nigerian economic revolution. She has scaled and implemented several ERP systems, driven cost efficiencies, and enhanced business scalability and resilience. She's the member of the Women in Logistics UK and an affiliate of the Chartered Institute of Purchasing and Supply. Shade is committed to advancing supply chain excellence. Her certifications include Lean Six Sigma, Yellow Belt, SAP ECC 6.0, and her dedication to continuous improvement is envisioned with all these trainings. Her vision is to empower Nigeria's economic revolution by positioning supply chain management as a strategic driver for non-oil GDP growth and global competitiveness. Thank you very much, Shade. I'll hand over the baton to you, and we'll look forward to learning from your experience and expertise.
Thank you very much, Lola, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shadi Fagbola, and I'm excited to be here today. And as Lola has mentioned, I am a supply chain advocate, and that's because over the years, in my experience, working as a supply chain professional, I've been able to see supply chain in action and in lack of it, what it can do to the success of any enterprise. So I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to share my experience. And today we will be speaking on how to master your supply chain to drive your business growth. And just for your information, I would be speaking to different sectors. I'm not just limiting it to a certain category of business. So this is a generic application of supply chain and how it can be a source of competitive advantage to your business. So without much further ado, let's dive into this. Okay, so I'm not going to assume everybody here knows exactly what a supply chain is. So I'm just going to kickstart the conversation with a very simple, relatable
Sorry, Shadi, can we
analogy.
run the poll so that we actually have a rough idea of who is in the room as well to help with the conversation? Yes, thank you, Shadi. Thank you, Bodupe, sorry. So if everybody could please answer just these 3 quick questions so that we know. Thank you so much. So once we have, I think there about half of the attendees responding, then we would be able to know a bit
Sure,
more
okay.
as to, yes. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. There are 2 questions, I believe, in the poll, 3 questions in the poll. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Modupe, you can go ahead and end the poll. I think we have over half people that have participated. Shade, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I think you're muted. So yes, we have some CEOs, we have some consultants, we have some supply chain managers, and rising costs and lack of visibility of tracking is the main issues, and the areas they want to see in their supply chain in the next 5 years. The highest 2 is technology and better risk management and contingency planning. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, so Shade, we can actually see your next slide. That's what we're seeing on this side. So could you,
So
I think,
can I
yes, we
proceed?
can see your notes and your slides.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll just proceed with that then.
Thank you.
Okay, so just diving into it, I don't want to assume everybody here is does understand know what the supply chain is, but can you see my screen still? Are you able to see my screen?
No, we haven't. Do you want, Modupe, can you share? Okay, perfect. We can see it now.
It's back on. Okay,
Yes,
sorry
it's back.
about that. Okay. All right. So what is the supply chain? So without assuming everybody here knows what a supply chain is, I want to use a very simple analogy because always an element of planning, procurement, warehousing, even distribution. So I will use a very simple example here. In our daily lives, the savvy housewife, she needs to plan ahead for the household, and that involves putting together a budget. And basically, her budget is her forecast. What does she need to buy, say, in the next month or two? And this is made up of needs. So in a supply chain, your first step starts with a need identification. We need to purchase something. So in a household, the housewife needs to purchase groceries, for instance, for the month. So she puts together her budget, um, puts together like a cost estimate. And then the next step is she needs to go to the market or the commercial center to procure or purchase. And it's usually quite strategic because in order for her to get value, she needs to be able to identify the right retailer, a reliable retailer, that retailer that can give her great terms, payment terms, or whatnot. So she goes into the market, she engages retailers, and then there's logistics involved in transporting the ingredients or the items back home. And then production takes place. So she takes the raw materials or the ingredients to the kitchen, which is like her factory. Production takes place, so she needs to convert the raw materials to a finished product, and then the final product gets to the end user, which are usually the members of the household. Let's even take this a bit further. Even after consumption has happened, there is a customer service and returns function in that simple analogy I've given you, which is feedback from the final consumer, i.e., the household personnel, whether the product met their needs or not. Was it delicious? Was it too spicy? Or the meat needed to be a bit bigger? These are all feedback that the housewife will take into consideration for the next month, her planning and her production of an end-to-end supply chain in a household. And that is typically what happens in a very simple supply chain. So what you can see here, starting with the planning function, we need to identify in an organization, be it for a project, if it's for a project or a technical project, we need to put together our bill of quantities. These represent what needs to be purchased in order to be able to execute the project. If it is a manufacturing company, the product needs to be produced. We need raw materials. In what quantities? When do they need them to come in? When is production scheduled to happen? And this sort of planning, what it does is it gives you a structured way of putting together, it's just a structured planning process. And you are very clear on what needs to be purchased. So that's forecasting and demand planning. Next, you have your procurement, which is the next process. You already know what
Hello. Sorry, Shadi, I don't know if you can hear us. You're breaking up quite a bit.
Next is and then of course there's conditions. Am I going to get these products for? There's price. Are you Dan Claire? Can you hear me? Is this better now?
Yes, it is. It
So
is
Lola, is this
much
better
better.
now?
Thank you.
Oh, all right, thank you, Lola. So if these items are expected to be imported, so there's an importation arm or function in a supply chain, which means engaging international suppliers, organizing customs clearance, shipments into in-country, and then delivery to the warehouse. Everybody undergoes distribution and warehousing, whether you're buying it locally or you're buying it from an international supplier. The items need to be received in a dedicated area. Inventory needs to be monitored on a daily basis or as the case may be. Deployment to the final destination, be it the production hub or sorry, production factory, or if it's a finished product, it needs to get to the final consumer. So, in a nutshell, it's a network of organizations and people, activities, information, and resources involved in producing and delivering a product or a service from the supplier to the final uh, end user or the final consumer. Now, what are the key components of a supply chain? Really quickly, it starts with planning and forecasting, just as I mentioned. And this is basically to determine what exactly it is you're producing or purchasing, in what quantities, when do I need them to go, when do I need the items or the equipment to go out. And then I can even stretch it and see, okay, for efficiency sake, carry out this exercise on a monthly basis. That way, you are able to use the word forecast on a longer horizon or a longer period. And it's followed by procurement and sourcing, which is the identification of eligible vendors or suppliers that will support you in supplying whatever the equipment or the items might be, the negotiation or the entering of contracts with these suppliers, and of course, the ability conversion of the raw materials, or if, like I said, if it is a project, then your equipment will be used for installation or whatnot. Logistics and distribution, the final item or the final product needs to get to the end user, and the process of arranging the picking, the ordering, logistics to the vendor, and of course, there's the inventory management and returns back to the warehouse if they are defective items are all part of the supply chain. There's also a very interesting and new feature or function in the supply chain, and that's customer service. So as companies become more and more aware of the power of the consumer, very key to improving your service or your product. So just as I mentioned, for the housewife, if by any chance the meal she set for her family, if one of them found it a bit spicy and whatnot, that process of receiving feedback would ensure that the next time she carries out that service, she's able to correct that if it's a defect, that's a defect. And it's the same with product, it's the same with returns in a typical SME environment. You will always have customers that would have issues with your product, and it's important to have a process of which you can get that feedback from them, and that in turn contributes to product improvement and of course customer satisfaction. It's and I think this is also the same with with different countries. Regional issues place that our vessels, the timely arrival of vessels at our port. So there are usually delays at our ports, effects for fluctuations that affect
Shade, how is it going at your end?
Yeah, I lost you for a second, but I'm back now. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
We can see your screen. The network is really bad. I know you had said that they had damaged some things out around your axis yesterday. So we would,
Yes,
yeah, so we'll just have to, oh,
yes.
well, yes, we can see your screen now.
Bear with me, please. Yeah. All right, so really quickly, like I said, the procurement has been the high FX rate has affected the price. There's been a shift from sourcing abroad in the larger sense and looking inwards, sourcing from Nigerian suppliers to reduce import dependencies, and then again, there's also the issue of the complex customs clearance, which we also experienced in the ports. And this has also contributed to a need to shift from import dependent activities to looking inwards. Production is tough because we have power challenges, as we all know, and this in turn affects the cost of production. So power is a big chunk of what goes into one's OPEX. So efficient manufacturing, even though they are thriving, there's constant and reliable and affordable power supply. Order processing is also a very common component in our businesses today, especially with the rise of e-commerce. So this is basically the workflow identified associated with the picking, packing, and delivery of packages to the carrier. And then there's also been a big rise in logistics to support not only e-commerce businesses, but when COVID happened, a lot of businesses on Insta marketplaces like Instagram. So Jumia and Konga were the big e-commerce portals that we had for a long time, but now there's been a big rise in SMEs, and these small businesses have products that have to get to their final consumers. So logistics, which is basically the scheduling of orders to schedule customer deliveries with a reliable carrier to the end user. Money distribution has also been on the rise. Inventory management is also um, to stock to handle economic volatility, and this is also where adequate planning comes in. So under inventory, so when they're planning their forecasting of what they want to purchase for the year, what usually happens is and this is a way of mitigating risks involved in untimely delivery. So your buffer would come into play when you're experiencing delays in either production or getting your raw materials together. And managing stock this way is a way of handling economic volatility and delays that come with customs clearance. And like I mentioned, there's the returns and customer service aspect of supply chain, which we also practice today, which is again putting in place a process of which different items can be returned back to the retailer and having a customer service support to manage customer complaints and feedback. Okay, so I would like to walk us through how far Nigeria has come in terms of how industrial growth or industrial economic growth is supply chain background as a growth experience our first industrial revolution to supply chain structure at the time. So it was bulk extraction of raw material and very little supply chain support. Between 1960 and 1980, we experienced our second industrial revolution. And that was when companies like Peugeot up in Nigeria. And supply chain was actually nascent at the time, but by the time we got into the 1990s and the early 2010s, we experienced our third industrial revolution. Now, before before the 1990s, it was manufacturing was pretty much the only sector that had the need for a supply chain. And if you notice, the best practices in the industry right up till about 10 years ago were carried out by the manufacturing sector. And that's because they had stayed longer, they had been established longer in regarding supply chain in Nigeria. But by the 1990s and the 2010s, when we experienced the industrial revolution, IT in banking and telecoms um, became a thing, and SMEs, though they struggled with due to lack of power and the cost of power and skills gap, supply chain was basically limited to multinationals and the FMCG sector. By 2020, which is when we experienced our fourth industrial revolution, fintech gave technology gave rise to a new business sector called fintech and logistics technology. So finance and logistics were able to leverage on access to technology, and those two sectors now basically advance in terms of their development. So with fintech, which we are seeing today, we have several companies that have been able to transition from your typical traditional banking system to an online banking system. And it's the same thing with logistics as well. We now have companies like the defunct Kobo 360 that was able to come up with a platform that would aggregate different logistics companies, and all you needed to do if you required logistics support was to log on to these platforms, and it made access to logistics really easy and accessible to more companies. So it opened up the logistics sector, giving rise to new business opportunities. Same thing with manufacturing as well. And at the end of the day, digital supply chain management was able to boost efficiency in these sectors. Today, Nigeria is undergoing a compressed development because all of a sudden, all these sectors or these revolutions are still in primarily their infancy stage. And because they come with their different challenges and opportunities, um, it's important to understand how supply chain will play a role in ensuring that we're able to gain efficiencies from its application. So I felt I should take us down that timeline before we now look at what and the role supply chain is going to play. So fueling Nigeria's ongoing economic growth, supply chain as the strategic engine. So what we have here are five general sectors. And for each of them, a modern supply chain shouldn't be seen as just a support function. It should be seen as the start with the SMEs and manufacturing. Why is this emerging? So it's the backbone of the economy, boasting of about 45% of the GDP. Post-COVID, there was a rise of SMEs because we stayed at home for such a long time and people were able to come up with very innovative ways of doing business at home. So what happened was a huge generation of entrepreneurs was born. and became drivers of employment. And the government has also been very integral in providing support programs to encourage entrepreneurship. And not just the government, there's also been a good amount of um, public, part- um, public private partnership. Now, how is supply chain the driver of growth for SMEs to start with? And then how am I able to grow my business in such a way that not only am I able to get my products to the customer, which requires a very good supply logistics service, how am I able to retain the loyalty of my customer to the point where I can grow my business? So efficient access to raw materials, affordable warehousing, and reliable distribution channels are what enables SMEs to scale beyond local markets and reduce costs. Now, there are efficiencies to be gained from start to finish in a supply chain. One of them is cost. Cost efficiencies are there. Without proper negotiation, you are already operating at a loss. And what does negotiations do? It just helps you get the product or service at the best price. But not just that alone, if you are able to plan accordingly, this is what you need, and you are efficient and prudent in your planning, you are able to negotiate great prices, you're able to lock down good warehouse costs and you have a logistics partner that is able to help you get your goods to your customer on time and in full. You in you gain customer loyalty and you improve customer satisfaction. That is how a supply chain of an SME would actually grow in terms of engaging, having a strong supply chain. And after an SME has expanded or grown within a certain size in its local region, there are also opportunities for them to scale beyond their local market to regional markets, especially in Africa now, where we have a continental marketplace. So if you're an SME and you're able to scale your business on time and you're able to scale your business successfully, sorry, grow your business successfully, there is an opportunity for you to scale, to grow beyond boundaries to other West African countries, taking advantage of the free trade area. Now, with technology and e-commerce, why is it adoption? We have a youth population that can actually thrive from this. And there's also the fintech and startup ecosystem. So mastering last mile delivery. So during an e-commerce business, mastering last mile delivery, having a returns management process in place, and also a strong logistics background, you can actually convert or digital demand, which is basically orders that you get from customer satisfaction and trust. In the power and renewable energy space, why is this? This is something that Nigeria has not been able to fix in over 50 years. So there's a very critical need to address the energy deficit, leveraging also not just solar potential, but even gas generation in Nigeria and attracting major investment. Now, why is supply chain the growth driver? Most of the equipment required for power generation and solar installation projects are imported. Shows that there is a need for a complex um, importation process to be in place, and someone has to drive that. And the same with procurement and warehousing and distribution. We have to identify uh, suitable OEMs that would not just be suppliers, but act as our critical business partners the growth of our sector or invest in the growth, they need to be well. And then they also have the project side, its components include sweaters and turbines, essential for the timely and cost-effective deployment to sites. Now, we are all affected by this because even the SME requires affordable.
Hello, Shadi, are you back on? Hello?
Yes, I'm back online.
Okay.
Can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, super. So, as I was saying just before the interruption, getting this equipment to site also play a major role in how, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, okay, you can see my screen. I lost my screen all of a sudden. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, we're good to go. Can see your screen and we can hear you. I think you've frozen again.
Right. Okay. So have even now?
We're good. We can hear
Even
you now.
now?
We can hear you
All right.
now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So having a strong supply chain in place in the power and renewable energy sector in turn affects the timely and cost-effective deployment of components to site for generation, and this affects everybody as a whole. We also have another emerging economy sector, which is the merging. The government is trying to diversify away from oil produce, and there has been efforts to improve investment and attract investors to tap into our mineral resources our mineral resources in Nigeria, and these include limestone, gold, and barite. And of course, the market for these sorts of resources are usually global markets. So, in order for this sector to thrive, we need to have a robust logistics network in place from mine to port to market, including heavy haulage and specialized transports, as this is the only way to unlock the sector's export potential. Last but not the least is agribusiness and processing. Why is this emerging? There is a focus on food security, there's export potential there, and of course, there's the opportunity to reduce post-harvest losses, which has been estimated to be about 45% of what is harvested annually. And how is supply chain the growth driver? There's opportunity for cold chain logistics, modern storage facilities, and efficient transportation necessary to preserve the quality of the produce and adding value and reaching new markets. So this in itself is a very interesting sector for me because for a long time, Nigeria has suffered um, high food prices to the fact that our road networks are a nightmare. So the cost of transporting goods from the north to other markets in Nigeria has always problematic. And of course, there's also post-harvest losses due to lack of storage infrastructure, and these two factors are primarily the key drivers of the high cost of food produce in Nigeria, which affects everybody in general. So looking at these five sectors that are going to be the future of our economy, one can see that supply chain is going to play a big role in ensuring the success of each and every one of them. And I think so. For my next slide, I would like to walk us through a proper real case study of how supply chain can transform the business of a Nigerian, can transform the outcome of a Nigerian business. And the case study is using a company called Nigerian Gold Tomato Paste Company. Their product is 100% natural tomato paste. It's located in Kano State, and their pain points are inconsistent raw material supply, high logistics costs, frequent stock outs, and inability to meet large orders. Now, why was this a problem for them? That's because prior to traditional reactive firefighting model for their business. And what this means is this: there isn't a demand or forecast in place to start with. So production is based on immediate orders and not a forecast, which means, oh, when we get the order, we will make it and we will sell it. The impact of this is they missed out on large contract opportunities because they didn't have a plan, production plan in place. The next challenge the company experienced was they only purchased at peak season from open market with no fixed contract. So what that means is rather than going to say a bunch of farmers or a cooperative to aggregate and level and leverage on scale to get best pricing, what they do is they go into the market, whatever is available in the market based on quantity and quality will be purchased at the time. And that resulted in high price volatility. Tomato is a seasonal Tomato is a seasonal crop. So there are high price volatility there, quality inconsistency. So after some time, the tomatoes you find in the market will not be the best crop. And of course, without any leverage with farmers, the company could not buy directly from farmers. And then for the inventory management, there was no cold chain in place. Their key raw material is a highly perishable material, and there should have been some form of temperature controlled storage in place. So what that meant was once the raw material tomato is in the factory, it has to be processed immediately after purchase. And the impact of this is they're not able to produce during off season when tomatoes are not in season. And last but not the least, so they have the final product. How do they get the final product to the final consumer? The practice at the time was the company used different transporters per trip based on the lowest cost. So they weren't looking at reliability. Their cost of production was already high. So I guess they're trying to cut corners with logistics. Probably went with the run of the mill logistics provider. And at the end of the day, probably had accidents on the road. Um, Sometimes trucks disappear completely with the driver, and this definitely led to delayed deliveries and, of course, poor customer satisfaction. So at the end of the day, the company lost profits, experienced stunted growth, and had also high operational stress because everything was very ad hoc. However, if we decide to put in place a proper supply chain, starting with demand and sales forecasting, we're able to identify key distributors, lock them down in a contract, agree for them to offtake a certain quantity of production that is made. And at the end of the day, the company was able to ramp up and land a major supermarket chain contract. With their sourcing and procurement, they decided to engage an outgrower scheme with 500 local farmers. So what this gave them was access to farm fresh, um, ready to farm fresh tomatoes that they bought at the even with financial volatility, their pricing doesn't change and they're able to hedge against any unseen hike in pricing for a certain time. This resulted to a 25% cost reduction and of course an empowered local community because they're buying from their local farmers. Inventory management, the company invested in modular storage facilities, and what that meant was they put in place a temperature controlled storage infrastructure. And what that meant was they're able to store more longer, and this gave rise to a more stable production schedule. We also adopted a FIFO system, which is also a good way to control the quality because what that meant was the tomatoes or the raw materials that came in first went out first, and that way they're able to maintain the kind of quality of their end product. and also reduce wastage to 10%, enabling year-round dedicated third-party logistics provider for storage and distribution. So this logistics provider was able to give them the kind of protection in terms of goods in transit, insurance they needed. They were able to enter into a contract with this logistics provider. So they were able to put in place penalties for delays, KPIs for their service delivery, and this led to a 30% reduction in logistics costs and damage. Overall, the company enjoyed a 50% revenue growth, expanded market reach, and predictable and scalable operations. Now, after all that has been said, just keep reiterating that there's a lot supply chain can do for any Nigerian business, starting from cost reduction. Your profit revenue is directly tied to your cost of production. So if you are able to have put in place a tight procurement department, not only are you able to use the right practices to hedge against FX fluctuation, which is very common in our country, you can also use that form of specialization to look for alternative local suppliers. That way, you're not dependent on importation and forex issues, potentially cutting down your expenses by 20 to 30%. Customer loyalty, everything is about speed to market, be it a dress or electricity or even a project. If you have a strong logistics support system, you are able to get not just logistics actually, but you have a structured supply chain in place. You are able to ensure that your product gets to market on time. And that way, your customers continue to, it makes your product not just available all year round, but your customers it builds customer loyalty and trust because it sends the message to your customer that you are a reliable and you're a responsible company. Competitive edge. Supply chain enables Nigerian SMEs to scale. If you're efficient end to end in your supply chain, eventually your ability to scale will increase. And that's because everything is planned, everything is structured. You are able to find if your value chain is very defined, and those efficiencies across the chain will eventually lead to your ability to not just dominate your own local market, but also and also spill into regional markets, points of market expansion. So you have a huge population. So if you have a fantastic market and start looking at expanding through exports to other markets under the Africa Continental Free Trade area, and which has created a single continental market for goods and services in Africa, vital for non-oil sectors. Resilience, risk management is a big part of supply chain management. And that's because you have to be able to, again, in your forecasting, it's not just about your quantity, the quantity of the products you want to buy, the pricing, and whatnot. In that particular exercise, you also factor in the risks that can come up in the process markets. So risk management is a big part of supply chain, and it helps you identify or come up with mitigating measures that can help you when or you get your product on time, fluctuations, currency, and whatnot. And then supply chain will also provide financial and performance metrics. So apart from improving your returns on investment, um, your used to measure how well your supply chain operations is doing. And these metrics are quantifiable and can be used to assess the quality of your supply chain. If there is need for improvements, if there's need for investments or whatnot. So it provides you adequate data. Now, what are the challenges and opportunities in Nigeria? So I have mentioned how logistics is going to play a major role in transforming a lot of businesses, especially one of the current challenges we face is with infrastructure deficits. We have bad roads and port congestions we have bad roads to start with, and this is mostly felt by the agro-allied sector, because transporting goods from the north, which is the food basket of the nation, down to the other markets across Nigeria is a very arduous process, as only 30% of the roads are paved. Same thing with our ports. There's always a congestion or the other happening at the ports at different times of the year. And there has to be better infrastructure in place, either in terms of infrastructure or processes at the ports, to make our ports more efficient compared to the other ports, not just regionally, but also globally. Opportunities for solutions include infrastructure investment. So it's estimated that a $1.5 trillion investment is needed to reduce losses. Another challenge experienced regionally is banditry. This disrupts energy and agricultural logistics, including increasing costs by 20 to 30%. Banditries along the roads, and even in the energy and in the power sector, pipeline disruptions and vandalization affects gas generation, which in turn affects gas supply, which in turn affects gas generation, which in turn affects electricity supply. So one can see how banditry is actually a big cause of it's a big problem, not just for logistics, but even in our day-to-day lives. So in a similar suggestion, public-private partnership could fund community-based security initiatives, potentially reducing logistics costs by 10 to 15% and improving supply chain reliability. Currency volatility is another challenge. This doesn't seem to go away anytime soon. And instability raises importation costs, impacting supply chain predictability. Simply put, the higher our FX rates, it indirectly affects everything across our importation. Our duty is calculated based on the cost of the item. So if the cost of the item is in FX and it goes up, clearly the overall cost of clearing would also be affected as well. So the landing cost is usually higher. And how can this be hedged? So local strategies are already mentioned that having a good procurement team can help in identifying vendors that can also act like a stopgap or a suitable alternative to in suppliers. Uh, Investment and sourcing reduces reliance on importing jobs, so I think to contracts or current businesses can also stabilize position costs, improving stability. Problem that I have noticed working in
Oh, sorry, we really apologize for, yes, the reasons why we live in Nigeria, I guess. I'm sure she'll come back soon. And I believe the recordings might be a lot better. But let me just reach out and see what's going on. Modupe, can you share the last slide? So maybe while we're waiting for her to come back on, the attendees can read the slides that she's speaking to at the moment. Maybe that might even also help a bandwidth. But she's coming back up now. Modupe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'll share my screen.
While we're waiting for her to come back, I know there's one question in the chat box that she would take later. But if anybody else has any other questions that we would like her to address, please go ahead and put that there. I've put our WhatsApp number in the chat. So anybody who is interested in getting the slides can also get the slides and or the recordings, depending on the quality when we're done. I don't know, I'm not a supply chain expert, but maybe we can unmute and people can talk about their experiences if they want while we're waiting for her to come back in. So we keep ourselves engaged within that time. I don't know if anybody wants to share an experience with the Nigerian supply chain. So for example, I'm actually seeing that Nigeria has banned the exportation of raw shea butter. I'm not sure how that's going to impact the supply chain that's out there, but I don't know if that's affecting anybody else in the room. So you can't export raw shea nuts, for example, I guess. So that might also be speaking to, the building of the infrastructure, or the keeping Nigerian money in Nigeria. I think Shade is back in. Saw her just now. But yeah, if anybody has any experience they would want to share about the challenges or opportunities that they might have experienced in the Nigerian supply chain, please raise your hand and then unmute. Okay. Yes, please unmute Mr. Mejibedu.
Yes,
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moshood Mejbedu.
Mejibeke. Okay. Nice to meet you.
Moshood, the Banana Village man.
Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Mr.
Yes.
Mejibeke. Yes. Nice to speak to you again, rather.
I will start my course very soon, next month.
Not a problem.
All right, but oh, it's nice listening to the presenter. It's very, very important because supply chain is very important. It affects a lot of businesses, as she has said earlier. An aspect before I go to that, you may make sure of a share butter. Yes, I think the federal government is trying to stabilize the economy of the nation. So they want us to, look into more value addition rather than just sending out raw materials out there always. So I think that's what the president is trying to do, and I think it's a very good one. But I think for us to be able to, maximize that area very well, I think our stakeholders need to play a lot of role in collaborations. Yes, we have to create a local collaborations. It's very important now. Many of us find it very difficult to work together, and I think we need to start looking at how local, entrepreneurs, local producers can actually come together and, bring out a semi-finished product, a finished product that can be exported to make more, more income. So this will create more impacts in the local area and so on and so forth. Having said that, one area I was looking at is that, to be honest, the issue of road and security is highly hindering supply chain. No matter what you are trying to put in place, if it is cold chain, if it is storage system and all that, we still need a road network to link this aspect together. So a few years ago, I remember I was talking to the president of the Lagos Business School sometimes uh, in a workshop that I was invited by FCMB on non-oil products. So I was saying, how can we leverage air transportation? For a long period of time, I used to watch documentaries. I see in the United Kingdom, I know of a company that supplies fertilizer from the port to farmers. They use helicopters to pick and drop to farmers 1 tons capacity, and they can, while supplying fertilizers, they can pick up local products. So whereby they maximize the costs of inflow and outflow of input and output of product. They use that. So how can we leverage on these aspects? We are in the area of using of drones, that can easily make transportation not easy. There's no what they call, there's no blood road on the air. There's no there's no traffic on the air. So how can
Thank you so much. I think for these insights, so basically what I'm hearing is that we need, aside from the government, you're skeptical about the government's involvement. Yes. Modupe, please, you keep sharing the slides, and Ms. Fagbola will just speak to the slides. So maybe that would help with the bandwidth. Yes. So maybe Shade, can you also help speak to this challenge, the challenge of the Nigerian infrastructure briefly? Thank you very much. I'm hoping
Thank
the
you, Lola.
Nigerian
Yeah,
factor,
thank you, Lola. And thank you,
yes,
Moshood. Yeah.
does not affect this webinar anymore. All right.
Yeah, I
Over to
just
you,
wanted to quickly
Shade.
speak to Moshood's thank you. And thank you, Lola. Thank you, Moshood. Moshood, really quickly, thank you for that observation. And just as I spelled out here, poor roads infrastructure are a problem. But in my opinion, I think air transportation will be too expensive, number one, and cannot cater to scale. So in its place, a railway infrastructure that works is a suitable alternative for a very simple fact. It can even be cheaper than road and can take as much in terms of volumes, if not more. So imagine having a rail car of about 20 containers that can connect the north to the south or southwest, which we already, by the way, have the network for, but there are certain investments that need to be made as well in that sector for it to thrive. I know that in the last couple of years, the government has not just through the government, but through public-private partnerships, the railway sector is gradually being revitalized. However, more investment is needed there if we are going to scale it and use it as a suitable alternative to road transportation. So that was what I wanted to speak to regarding that observation. And
Sorry, I know she's dropped off, Miss Oluwale Shobowale. Did you want to say something while we're waiting? Does anybody else want to say something while we're waiting? Okay. Shade, are you back in? So your network is still really bad.
I sincerely apologize to round this up.
Okay, so we can hear you better now. Okay.
My network is what, sorry?
No,
Okay,
we
you can
couldn't
hear me
hear
now.
you just now, but it's clearer now.
It is, okay. So I'm just trying to bring up my slide again. All right, so just to recap, the benefits of supply chain in these sectors for agriculture, supply chain can cut post-harvest losses, which is currently valued at market chains, improving farmer outcomes and also food security. In the mining and solid mineral sector, it can enhance extraction efficiency, integrating Nigeria into a global critical network with valued at $700 billion dollars annually, and also can help promote sustainable practices through sustainability for attraction and also
Hello, Shade. I don't know if, yeah, can you stop sharing or have you dropped off? Oh dear. This is quite painful. Jade, why don't you let Modupe share the screen and let's run it that way instead of you sharing the screen as well, because that might be affecting bandwidth. Can you
Yeah,
hear
I'm
me?
actually on the last slide, so I'll just round up since it's just one slide left.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
A functioning supply chain is the glue that will bind Nigeria's agricultural aspirations and digital innovation into a growing and competitive economy. A call to action.
So, Shade, honestly, we couldn't hear a word of what you said on this slide. And I think even the last slide as well. So maybe we just stop sharing the screens and you can just talk to the slides from your side so that everybody knows what it is, especially this slide, especially, if you can focus on what SMEs could do, or also the supply chain managers in the room, what they could do in their own organization. And we can run the polls and then wrap up. But this slide and the last slide, it was really crackly. Are you still there? I think we might have to ask if she can do a recording with the slides. But we will let you know if that's the case. For those that we have their email addresses. Modupe, in the meantime, because I'm conscious of time, can you run the poll? Modupe, are you running the poll? Thank you. Thank you very much. So we need feedback to be able to do better. I would really like if everybody could please take the time out and respond to these 3 questions. And of course, Modupe, please, can you put the phone number for WhatsApp and the Instagram handle in the chat so that people can send us messages that we can, help as well. While we're doing that, we'll give Mrs. Fagbola a few more minutes to join before we wrap up at 1:30. Okay, she's back in the room. Hello, Shade. I don't know if you want to just speak to the last 2 slides without sharing the slides, because we couldn't really hear what you were saying. But we've also started running the poll because I'm conscious of the fact that it's almost 1:30. So we want to close up by 1:30. Is that okay by you?
Lola, sorry, I just logged back in. I noticed you were saying something.
Oh, right. Okay. No, I said that because I'm conscious of the time, it's almost 1:30, and I'm conscious of the
Yes.
time. Yes, I said, could you just run through to summarize the last 2 slides without sharing the slides? Because I think maybe bandwidth might be an issue, and then maybe we can answer. I think a couple of questions came in. So if you could summarize the last 2 slides and then we take the
Sure.
questions.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody, for your responses. Please, our email address is modupe@Amona Consulting or amonaconsulting@gmail.com, but the details will be put in there shortly in the group chat. Shade, I don't think you need to share the screen. It's going to take up bandwidth and we won't hear you at all. So just you don't have to share the slides. You can just speak to it from your own side, and we would not have any screens or videos up.
Right. Okay. So
We can, yeah, so we can still, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Modupe, don't share screen either.
Okay.
Don't share, no slides shared, please, because it's affecting the bandwidth. And we can't hear Shade's talking. Perfect, thank you. I think, Shade, I don't know if you can hear, is Shade still in the room? No, she's dropped off. There was a question from ID Emmanuel. I don't know if, okay, Modupe, thank you for putting the contact details in the room. And I think what we should do, given the issues with the network, is that we would send Mrs. Fagbola. So ID, okay, Shade, can you hear us? Hello, Shade.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, perfect. Can we just answer ID Manuel's question? And
Okay.
yes, and his question was, how can we leverage technology and digitalization to create a more agile and responsive supply chain ecosystem in Nigeria? And what opportunities exist for local innovation and entrepreneurship? I know you had already started speaking about the challenges and the opportunities. I think this question came before you started speaking to it. So maybe you could just summarize for that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lola. So thank you for that. So with the advent of AI, you can actually now automate your own processes yourself using the help of AI agents like Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT, DeepSeek. There are courses available online that you can attend. And automation of processes are very key in driving efficiency. They reduce the long hours put into manual labor, errors that are carried out by humans, and basically boosting efficiency in general. And then I mentioned adopting or using Internet of Things for tracking and monitoring of logistics. So for your shipments, you can use Internet of Things for tracking vessel progress. That is for importation and for logistics. This can also be used for getting real-time information on where your trucks or your carriers are, and even predictive analysis. You can use technology to come up with insights that can be used for predictive maintenances if you're in the technical sector, or for forecasting. So there are different ways technology can help increase or improve supply chain processes. And these are just examples. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope that was useful, Mr. Emmanuel, Miss Emmanuel. And on that note, I thank you so much for being patient. And like I said, we're happy to send you the slides for this session. Obviously, our Nigerian infrastructure has played a part in not allowing it to be as smooth as we would have liked it. I promise you, we had practice runs. But this is what Nigeria does. It throws you curveballs and you just have to rise above. So thank you so much for being patient with us. Thank you so much for taking the time out. And my name is Lola Sheyongwo. I'm the MD lead partner for Amona Consulting, where we help companies grow through process creation, strategy, and ensuring that everybody has an improved structure for growth. So we look forward to hearing from you, seeing you, and if you subscribe to our newsletters, you would know when more webinars like this will be coming up. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Shade, for taking the time to help us educate our followers, our people in this regard. We really appreciate you as well. And I don't know if you have any other words to share with the people still online, Shade.
Okay, thank you very much, Lola. For now, nothing. I think I've said a lot. The slides would be made available for interested parties. And just to round it up, there is a big space for supply chain in Nigeria, especially in moving the economy forward. And this should be identified, understood, and actioned. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. On that note, have a lovely day and God bless. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.